Okay, well, it's 12:01, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I will continue to let people in as they arrive, but we definitely want to keep this timely. I'm sure many of you are on your lunch hour, so we'll promise to wrap this up before the 1 o'clock hour. We have with us today Skyler York with the City of Michigan City and Nicole Barker with NICTD and the Double Track Project Manager, who will both give us some updates from their world on Double Track Northwest Indiana, specific to the Michigan City updates. For those of you that don't know me, I am Katie Eaton, the president here at Michigan City Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us for this important update. And just to let you know, I am recording this session, so if you have to leave early, we will put this up on our YouTube channel so that you can view the rest of it there. You can also then share it with anybody afterward that maybe was not able to be in attendance today. After Skyler is going to go first and give us some updates, and then he's going to turn it over to Nicole. After they're both done, we will definitely have time for Q&A. During their presentations, I would just ask that you keep yourselves muted. If you have specific questions that you would like them to address at the end, you can enter those into the chat. We will also probably have some time for you to unmute yourself at the end for those questions as well. So I believe we have everybody muted. And at this time, I will hand it over to Skyler York.
Hello, everyone. I'm Skyler York. I'm the Director of Planning and Redevelopment for the City of Michigan City. Thanks for joining us today. Can everybody hear me okay? Katie, am I coming through okay?
You sound great.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today. I'm glad to see such a, I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so it's good to see you all. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our development and some developments in downtown, some things that are going on, and then I'll end with passing it over to, I'll end on the double track, but not to take anything away from Nicole, make sure of that. So, as you guys know, the double tracking has received its funding, and as soon as that happened, it really, let me back up. Over the past few years, the past 2 or 3 years, I would say that we've been getting a lot of interest in downtown. A lot more people are looking at Michigan City, both from, traditionally it's been from Chicago, but actually it's becoming more of Indianapolis, Ohio. We're getting lots of other developers and other people looking at us. I would say not even developers, but other people looking at maybe some of the downtown buildings, even moving their, looking to relocate their small business here even. The number of requests for facade grants have went up, which is a good, a sign that people are looking at buildings, they're looking at our incentives, things of that nature. So I take that as a good sign for our downtown. One of the things I was out doing today is looking at our Singing Sands Trail this morning. As soon as that happens, there's one more piece that has to be poured on the trail near Peanut Bridge. As soon as that is poured and cured, the trail will be opened up and we'll be able to go the 4.5 miles that is built. So that's very exciting too. What else can I talk about that's going on downtown? There's a lot of, you might see the Redevelopment Commission. We're still working with Pine Street, our apartment complex there. We're looking at some options for that. We've executed an MOU with with the You Are Beautiful site, which is next door to us here. That's been talked about at the Redevelopment Commission. We've also looked at a condo development that you might have heard of that was on at 100 Washington, where the train depot is. We're finalizing some final agreements with that as well. That was talked about, had a couple of redevelopment commissions back right after the first of the year. You might have seen the presentation of that. There's 55 new condos with that development, which a lot of this is, I think, determined upon. Now, a lot of it's been kind of in the works, but I think now that the double tracking has been officially announced, I think that's pushed it to the point where, okay, this is actually going to happen. I know there was a lot of teetering on that. So going to the train station, the actual double tracking the train station, our role in the double tracking is that we are the purchasers of the double tracking station itself, the actual block. know there's a lot of confusion on what the role of us and NICTD is, but our role in this project is we will be purchasing the land and the properties, the buildings at the double track that the station will sit on. That's the role of the Redevelopment Commission and the city at this point in time. We've almost secured all of those parcels. We're working, we have about 2 more that we have to work through, but as of right now, we've got purchase agreements and relocation through the Federal Relocation Act. We've been following the rules, everything like that. We have just about all of them under contract or have bought them. So that's our role. NICTD will do the demolition. We have some environmental cleanup that we will participate in as well. But other than that, that's our role with the double tracking. I guess with that, I'm just going to hand it over to Nicole and then let her talk a little about it. And then I'll be available at the end and we can kind of bounce some questions back and forth with everyone if that's acceptable.
Sounds good. Thanks, Skyler. I'm Nicole Barker with the South Shoreline Railroad. Nice to see many familiar faces on the call. And I just want to say what a joy it's been working with the chamber in particular, as well as the city and through 2 administrations now. You know, the double track project, I think, is a project that has truly brought our region together, unlike anything I've seen before. And the spirit of cooperation is just truly exciting. And the chamber's been behind us every step of the way. And of course, Mayor Perry now and his administration too, and Skyler, poor Skyler has to deal with me multiple times a day usually. It's a lot of work, but it's going to be so wonderful when it's done. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's showed up for meetings to support the project over the past, well, at least 4 years since I've been here. And with that, I'll shut off my camera and start presenting. Hold on. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Not yet. We still just see your image.
Right, let's see here. Hold on one second. Let me move this out of the way and hit screen 1, share. Am I set now?
There you go.
Okay, super. So I am the Double Track Northwest Indiana project manager. We are not working on this in isolation. Of course, Michigan City is a key partner, as well as the other municipalities in our project area, along with the Federal Transit Administration, the Regional Development Authority, and the Indiana Finance Authority, who are our fiscal partners for the project and TOD partners. I won't spend too much time. Most people know a double track is basically what it sounds like. It's putting a second track in next to our existing track. Some people who know our system well will say, well, hey, by Ogden Dunes, there's already 2 tracks. Well, there are some areas, about 6 miles total, that already exist in terms of double track. Mostly those are passing sidings, and those will be converted into the permanent second track. We're going to go faster. This is the most exciting part to me. Right now, we're about 1:41 to downtown Millennium Station from Michigan City's 11th Street Station. And afterwards, we're going to be at 1:15, and we'll even be down with some express trains each day at 67 minutes. We plan right now on having 14 extra trains per day on weekdays as part of double track, which is exciting. The project limits begin on the eastern end in Michigan City at Michigan Boulevard and 11th Street, where we intersect. And then on the west end, if you're familiar with the Gary Railcats field, that's basically the western limits of our project in Gary Miller area. In Michigan City, this image is something you're used to seeing frequently. This condition in which we travel down the middle of the road with no gates, bells, or flashers will be gone after this project. It'll be a much safer condition when we are done. In fact, about 8 of the top 100 most dangerous road and rail intersections in the state of Indiana are right here along 10th and 11th Street in Michigan City. That changes every year based on crash data, but generally speaking, that is the issue. So that'll be a major improvement. The 2 new tracks on 10th Street are actually going to be south of the street, and that's the area on the south side of 10th where we're acquiring a lot of real estate and homes in that area in order to put those tracks fully separated from the roadway. There's going to be some new traffic signals, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then all the grade crossings that remain open will have proper gates, bells, and flashers, which is really great in terms of safety. There will be a high 2 high-level platforms going in at 11th Street downtown. And we're also going to get new platforms at Ogden Dunes, Portage, and Miller. And there's also a low-level low levels going in at Beverly Shores and 1 new one at Dune Park. We've got 4 railroad bridges, none of which are in Michigan City, 20 culverts, lots of drainage, and 3 retaining walls are also part of the project. I won't spend too much time here. Just please note that the streets Carlton, Connolly, and Clare are closed permanently as part of this along 10th Street. And then we have a diamond where we cross to Amtrak. In railroading, we have frogs, diamonds, and all kinds of things like that. That just basically means we intersect across each other's tracks. And that location is actually going to be moving southward from where it crosses right now, about 100 feet, to take a curve out of the roadway, because curves are the enemy of the railroad. They make us go slow. So that'll be over by the Alpha Storage Facility and Amtrak in Michigan City there. We'll be putting 2 new tracks on the north portion of 11th Street. And we're also going to be converting 11th Street will only be one-way eastbound when we're done. We'll get new sidewalks, and we'll have a lot of separation from the pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic, which will be very important for safety as well. And then Skyler talked about this large new station. It's interesting to think about, 11th Street station right now is kind of a small, very minor station compared to Carroll Avenue. This is going to change that forever. This will be the premier station for Michigan City moving forward. We'll be also adding 2 new surface parking lots at Pine and Cedar Streets, just to the east of the future garage and station. And 10 streets noted here close along 11th Street. We have this on our website. I'm not going to go through this, but if you want to get a kind of basic 101 of what's going to happen at Hancock, what's going to happen at Ohio, you'll be able to see on this table, and this covers all the intersections, what the future condition will be. And I can make this PowerPoint available too, so you can see that. We are going to be putting in traffic signals at 11th and Franklin, 11th and Washington, and 11th and Wabash. Those are going to be redone. They're interconnected with our rail operations like they are today, and they function in conjunction with the new grade crossing warning equipment. So it's all basically dovetailed to work together as one single system. There's also going to be a new traffic signal at 10th and Franklin. And a stop sign that exists right now at 10th and Pine, it's going to shift from 10th Street over to Pine Street. And that's all related to the flows in and out of the future parking garage and station. This is the footprint. If you're not familiar, basically what we call the station block, quote unquote, is bounded by 10th Street, 11th Street, Franklin, and Pine. And you'll notice we actually spill out slightly onto the existing right-of-way in Pine Street. We have approval from the city to jog our facility slightly east so that we could open up a nice footprint for the city on the west that's about 40 feet wide for the entirety of the block for future transit-oriented development. So Skyler and his team are talking to developers, what kind of structure could go here, and it would be adjacent to the facility that we are building. The parking structure, let me go back really quick and show this. Basically, we have, in anticipation of this building being built, we've allowed for a couple spaces to where you can punch through the wall, if you will. So when this building is built, the people who are using it, let's say it's a residential facility on the upper levels, they will be able to connect directly to the garage and to the station. Same thing here for the retail space. We have an operations and maintenance agreement that we've already passed with the city to deal with how we manage the facility long term. I won't spend too much time on it, but suffice it to say, if we need to, let's say the new building has residential units, there's an opportunity for us to work with the city to offset the spaces in the garage, maybe privatize those for the residential units, assuming we can get other parking to make up for that within a quarter mile of station somewhere else. So really we're looking forward to working with Michigan City as it develops and transit-oriented development comes through. We want to be as flexible as we can within the federal guidelines to shift things around to make the downtown area make sense and also serve our passengers. We all know the old facade. This is going to be coming down very soon here, brick by brick, and it will be stored probably in the former Chrysler pole barn down the street. And then it'll have to be repaired and re-erected on the future actual station building. So this is a really wonderful historic piece that we have included in the project in partnership with the city. This is a rendering. This is facing northeast at 11th and Franklin. You can see the retail spaces. There's a larger one here and a smaller one here. And NICTD will be responsible for leasing these out to whomever would be best, we think, for this kind of really nice downtown corner, this anchor. You'll see this green area here. That's that 40-foot TOD footprint. So when we're done with construction, this is going to be planted with some very basic landscaping, knowing that the city's working hard to bring a developer in and do some future construction here. And at the end, Skyler, maybe I'll have you talk a little bit about the betterments that you guys have planned. I have some slides on that you can speak to. You can also see here that historic facade right here. You'll be able to walk up a sidewalk and directly walk onto the platforms to get to the trains. This is a view from Pine Street looking west, northwest. You'll see here that sidewalk I'm talking about. You'll be able to go right up to the platform and walk out onto the, go over the sidewalk and walk out on the platform, and then you'll be able to enter the station building itself. Inside the station building, there's some modest seating, our ticket vending machines. We have space for a small vendor who could sell coffee and that kind of stuff as well if needed. So we're excited to program that space. This is one of the spaces where you can get in and out of the garage. The other is going to be on 10th Street. This is really just more of an aerial view. Now you can start seeing the two surface lots that will extend east from the parking garage. In addition to all the parking, there's about 400 some parking spaces that are available day one inside the garage. You can also see here eastbound 11th Street is one way only. We did a nice night rendering because we wanted to really show the city how wonderful the facade and the historic element of the building will look at night. So I mentioned there's 436 parking spaces opening day, but based on our agreement with the city from 2016, we have allowed for up to 2 additional levels of parking to be added in the future if desired. The commuters will have parking priority during the week, Monday through Friday until 2, and on designated event days such as Lollapalooza, big events that draw huge crowds to Chicago, or we call those kind of blackout dates. And then after 2 p.m. and on the weekends, all this parking is going to be open for the public to use. And so that's a really wonderful partnership with the city. We hope it'll draw more people into the downtown area to recreate, eat, and have fun downtown. Let's see, I won't go into the capital costs. Quiet zone, we get a lot of questions on a quiet zone. So we just had a meeting with Skyler and Mayor Perry a couple weeks ago. A quiet zone is something that the local municipality needs to apply for, but NICTD is helping Michigan City. We pay to run the model through the Federal Railroad Administration, and basically it looks at all kinds of inputs like how many accidents have there been here, what is the speed limit, how many trains per day, and it determines whether you qualify for a quiet zone. So we built Double Track, making sure that all of our intersections where we have grade crossings would help qualify for it. And the plan is that next year in early 2022, we're going to run our model with the FRA again. And I'm pretty sure we're going to qualify. Even if we didn't qualify, there's a path to get the quiet zone. I won't go into that here because I don't think we're going to need it. But basically, once we get the model done, we submit it to the FRA. Michigan City does that work. And then if it gets approved, what's the exciting part is right here. Neither our trains or South Shore freight trains, when they're on the NICTD tracks, will blow their horn through the quiet zone unless the engineer has a safety concern, like for example, a vehicle on the tracks that would require them to use the horn. So that's really going to be exciting as well, especially for residents who live right downtown. We have 5 construction packages. It's not one single construction project. The main package, package 1, is most of the project. In Michigan City, you really only need to know about package 1 and also package 2. And that package 2 is the garage, the station, and the retail space. You can see the other packages listed here, but they're outside your municipality. We are done with design. We advertised the project, at least the contracts you're concerned about, 1 and 2, that went out on January 7th. We got our grant on January 12th. And then we know for package 1 and 2, which I've highlighted in yellow, we are going to be giving construction notice to proceed on May 17th and on May 7th, respectively there. So it's coming around the corner very quickly. All segments are going to be substantially complete approximately, I said it's subject to change, approximately May, with revenue service, I'm sorry, May of 2023, with revenue service expected in September of 2023. Now keep in mind, once we get the final construction firms on board, they have the ability to propose their own means and methods, and so these things could change slightly, and we'll certainly be keeping everyone up to date. What we've done in the PowerPoint is kind of done our best at estimating, there's a lot of complicated phasing for the project. A lot of people ask me, are you starting on the east and going west? And I had no idea before I started in railroading how complicated our signal system is, the track system. The fact that we run off of overhead power is incredibly challenging. So you can imagine, as an example, over by the Bride Church in Michigan City, we call that the Cedar Street curve. So we want to go a little more quickly there. So we are moving the train tracks to kind of go through the Bride Church property, which is why we're taking that property, to straighten out the tracks. And as a result, we have to move our tracks over. We have to add the second track. We have to move our catenary pole that powers the trains to allow trains to continue moving through there. We have to put the future location in that can't be in conflict with the new overhead power. You get the picture. The sequencing of this project is extremely complicated. We have a phasing plan that we've included in our bids. It's our best estimate of what we think the contractor is going to want to do in its approach to the project. But again, they can propose their own means and methods. So I just want to qualify that as I show some of these elements, because some of these things could change from a certain season depending on how they approach the project. But these are the major work elements that would be occurring, starting later this spring until this fall. Alpha Storage would have some remediation and demolition. We'd take that facade off the historic station. We'd begin construction of the new garage and station. I just mentioned Cedar Street, realign the track over by Bride Church. We'd start building 11th Street one-way eastbound, and then over at Green in Chicago, we have some intersection work we'd begin. Anticipated impacts, that just shows, we're actually going to close 11th Street station for the entire duration of double tracks. No one will be able to use 11th Street. And then we have some extended closures on eastbound 11th, some intermittent intersection closures on 11th as well, and then bus shuttles during track outages. We're exploring all of that further right now. What to expect in winter of 2021 to spring of 2022. We're going to start putting those cul-de-sacs in north of 11th at Kentucky and the streets listed here. All of those will start being constructed. We're going to start building our north high-level platform and our north track 2 on the north side of our existing track. Grade crossings at north-south streets, and then we're going to open new track 2 between Michigan and Chicago and close the existing track. Again, you'll see the anticipated impacts below, and there's those permanent closures occurring at this time by spring of 2022. Phase 3, we're going to be pulling out all that track. We'll start building the south platform and south track. Again, some phased closures on pieces of 11th Street. Phase 4, we're going to put in our new diamonds at Amtrak. Overhead contact system is OCS for tracks 1 and 2 on 10th. We're going to construct the tracks along 10th. So I think an important thing to note is 11th Street's happening first, 10th Street's happening second. New grade crossings are going in. We have a new cul-de-sac at Clare Street. And we're going to close Donnelly Street south at 10th. And then new catenary for the tracks 1 and 2 along 10th goes in. And again, you see the impacts below. 5 and 6, you guys have the longest number of phases for the project, as you can imagine, due to the complexity. We'll be putting our track 1 and 2 in service. We'll finish our garage and put it in service, and then we'll be done at that point. So 2 years of construction, but I think we have it phased in a very efficient manner. Detours, again, the contractor may approach this differently, but right now, this is our plan. During phase 1, you'll see here that we'll have westbound only traffic on 11th. We won't have any eastbound initially. And you can see the detour where we're pushing people to 8th Street here. That phase 2, we permanently close westbound 11th Street. So that shall never open again after that point. And then we'll open that eastbound traffic lane that we've constructed. Some short-term detours will occur for 10th Street And you can kind of see eastbound and westbound traffic. Again, I'll make this available so you can look at it at a glance at your convenience after this. Temporary street closures on 10th. What of note here is that we've made it so that there's only one closure at a time allowed at Sheridan and Willard and US 12 and Sheridan. They cannot be closed at the same time. That was based on feedback from the city and Michigan City Transit. And lastly, things are moving back and forth both ways on 10th Street, and we're totally separate from the roadway. We made this slide so you could kind of get a sense of where the cul-de-sacs are going in along 11th Street. And you can see the streets that still remain open. We've got Oak and Lafayette, and you can get a sense of that here. But there's still really only places where people may have to go a block or two out of the way to get to a functional north-south intersection after we're done. These are the official connections where you will be able to pass north and south, just to make it easier for you to see. We'll have some detours here that I'm noting just temporarily over by that Cedar Street curve. We're going to have to shut that down at Lafayette temporarily on that. This is the detour that we'll be using at that time. Same thing here. We'll have a short term over at Franklin and Washington. This is if you're familiar with Green Street, this is what it looks like. It's this wonky traffic signal that seems to randomly sit in the middle of the road. We are improving this intersection and making this a safer, there'll be actually an island and everything in this area. So it's a very clear and easy to understand intersection moving forward. That's actually Amtrak signal as well. So we're working with Amtrak on that. These are the new cul-de-sacs, or the cul-de-sac that's going in here at Clare Street. These are the 10th Street north-south connections. We've got Sheridan, Willard, and Chicago. And then you'll notice these horseshoe-shaped connectivity pieces that we put in place at the request of the city over by Carlon Court and Donnelly. We've worked a lot with Robin Tillman of Michigan City Transit to make sure that during construction, everybody understands what buses are stopping where, and then, what has to change permanently when we're done. So we're working on that, and actually our project is required to coordinate with them and get all their communications and information ready to go, so it's really easy for them to distribute to their passengers. Same thing with Gary. Let's see here. Carroll Avenue will remain open during all this and after double track. We will be doing bus service. You'll see these things here. These are really the items of note. We are going to keep Washington Street or Franklin Street open at all times. They can't be concurrently closed. We have to keep Washington Street open when Wabash is closed. We are going to keep Franklin and Pine open when we have closures at that Cedar Street curve by Bride Church. And then we have some plans for routes 1 and 2 for the buses. And this applies to everybody. This is just really restrictions we put on the contractor to make sure it's not a major inconvenience for people trying to get around town in Michigan City. You may have already started to see NIPSCO moving their power lines and poles off of 11th Street and onto 8th Street. That work's happening already. Other utilities such as Comcast are basically they're doing all this work to get out of our way so we can build our project. So NIPSCO is going to start doing some gas main relocations as well. And of course we have some demolition coming up of a lot of structures in Michigan City. I'll talk about that in a minute. But, safety is our highest priority. So I wanted people to know too, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click that. These safety blitzes, we do see people going around the gates. It's a little bit more in the Dunes area than it is in Michigan City, but we are going to be doing some safety blitzes because during construction, we need this to be a very safe condition. And so we're going to be targeting people who are going around gates or trespassing on railroad property to make sure people are aware of what's coming up. And then we're going to have a media campaign about construction and safety. So there are several ways to get more information on the project. I think one of the easiest ways is on our project website, which you'll note here. Go in the upper right-hand corner, sign up for the latest news and project updates. Right now, we anticipate issuing a monthly e-news to the people who are signed up for this list. So if you're not already on it, please sign up. Secondarily, we have added a new construction information section on our website. This is the link. And I'm updating it today. So by the end of the day, it'll have a March 9th, 2021 update. And what it really has right now is by geography, it'll say, here's what's happening in Gary and Miller. Here's what's happening near Portage Ogden Dunes. Here's what's happening near 11th Street in Michigan City. And I've tried to capture everything that the public would want to know about what's coming up over the next several weeks. We now have a firm, a construction management firm, WSP, on board, and their job is to assist us in creating a more robust outreach plan. That's this construction outreach plan with municipalities and residents, so that we can make sure that you guys are getting exactly the type of information you need to plan ahead. We're also going to be using press releases, and we have a Facebook page that we do use to get the word out. We are already posting updates there, but right now the primary way we're reaching out is through the website. So I encourage you really to look at this link here, bookmark it on your computer, and if you're ever wondering, or if someone asks you what's going on next with Double Track, you'll be able to see it at a glance. Of course, we'll also have signage and wayfinding during construction and for bicycles after construction. We established a fire, life safety, and security committee that is, it includes every single fire and police department that are across the entire geography of the Double Track project. We also have the National Park and the State Park represented on that team. And we provide them with updates. We'll probably be talking to them monthly during construction. We've already made them aware that we are requiring railroad safety training for all of our construction workers, as well as safe driving to ensure that people driving in this area are very safe. People who are working on our project will be required to carry photo ID badges on their person when they're on our property. So if there's ever a question of, if you see something that may be unsafe, please contact us. But these people also need to have IDs on them. And if they don't, we need to know about that. So you can certainly let me know. We do require that all construction sites are secured when they are not in use. So there'll be some fencing in these areas too. One condition I want to point out in terms of safety is this little drawing right here. It says, danger, another train coming. And you'll see this is Miller Station as an example. You can see this area where people are going to cross in front of a waiting train to get to the platform to go to Chicago. This is a brand new condition that's going to exist on all of the Double Track stations once we're done. This condition already exists in Hammond, and it's very common across all of Metra's lines, but it's new here. And so we're going to try to do some outreach to make sure people understand that. What we've also done is, you'll see here, there's a little gate. We also have, it's basically a gate for pedestrians. That arm would come, like it comes down in front of a car, it'll come down in front of the pedestrians. They cannot walk in front of a train. This will also flash and beep and make noise saying there's another train coming for secondary safety coverage. I already mentioned some of the utility relocation, but be on the lookout. There will be a lot of this happening over the next 2 to 3 months. Real estate, we are well underway with our real estate acquisition following the federal process. We are anticipating starting demolition in Michigan City. I say early spring here, but things could begin as soon as next week or the week after. You'll start to see some of our buildings that we've acquired boarded up with no trespassing signs on them. We are in communication with the police department and fire department as those demolitions are set, and when the property is vacated as well, so that they are aware of where they may need to patrol and look out for shenanigans. In Michigan City, about 55 buildings, residential, are coming down, and 5 commercial are coming down. The 3 largest in Michigan City are the Bride Church, Alpha Storage has a partial demolition, and then the station block, or the former station building itself, are some of the larger ones. A firm called Beam Longest and Neff, or BLN, oversees our demolition contractor, and Michigan City is working with them as well on real estate acquisition. So we have a kind of seamless team working on everything together. We are boarding up properties within 48 hours. We've put up those no trespassing signs. Asbestos, lead, and other contamination are all addressed per federal, state, and other regulations. The utility disconnects are being managed by BLN. And then usually buildings are getting demolished about 1.5 to 3 months after board up. And like I said, we're in touch with the municipalities and the police departments. You may know about our Westlake project in Lake County. Everything's gone very well with demolition in that area, and we hope it will be as safe and efficient in Michigan City. Skyler, here I've got some of the betterments. Do you want to talk to these a little bit here?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. Let me look over them real quick and decide how I want to, or okay. The bill, funding. Okay, the Wabash, Washington, and Franklin, those intersections, what we call betterments. So there's a certain, and Nicole, if I say this wrong, please jump in and correct me. So betterments are anything above what the project. So Nicole's project has a certain base amount that was awarded to it. A betterment is anything that we want above that. So Nicole is going to build the project's going to build concrete walls, but they're not stamped or anything like that. If we want stamps or them to look like brick or stone, that's a betterment. So we think that we should have these betterments to make our project fit in better with our downtown. Some of the betterments that we're looking at right here, the intersections of Wabash, Washington, and Franklin. Those are kind of our gateways into our downtowns, kind of in the center of downtown. You might notice right now they have the Uptown Arts District logo in them. They will be decorative when we're done. So that's a betterment that we're adding to it. The York Street Cul-de-sac, right now that cul-de-sac is, the street is brick. We would like for it to remain brick. So the cul-de-sac will be brick. That way we're not introducing a new texture or material there. The ornamental fence is probably, the ornamental fence and the ornamental fence top of the guardrail. Those are kind of the pieces that I think are some of the most important pieces. So the ornamental fence is the fence that is dividing. Nicole, can you flip forward one, I think? So if you see this ornamental fence, which are in the green boxes here, what you're looking at is the cross section of 11th Street looking east or west, however you're positioned on it. I think right now we're looking east, yes. The ornamental fence, so on the north side of the tracks, there will be an ornamental fence, just a fence only. We want that to look like an element that is already in downtown or that you would already see. So the idea is that would be a wrought iron looking fence. We haven't picked out exactly the fence yet, but it will be wrought iron, it'll be black powder coated, etc. On the south side, where the cars are running east, that's required to have a concrete barrier and with a decorative fence on top of it. So that concrete barrier, rather than just being a concrete barrier, our idea is that we will stamp it to look like brick, so that it's not just a smooth mason. It will have some relief to it. And then on top of that, rather than just being for lack of other terms, a Jersey barrier kind of concrete, that it will all the way up, that it will have a decorative fencing element on top of it. I would relate it to the bridge that we just completed over Trail Creek. That's the look that I think we're going for. It may not have stone look at the bottom. It may be more brick, but it would be a masonry base with a railing or a fence on top of it. So that's the look we're going for if I had to relate it to something. What were some of the other, can you go back to the list? Sorry. Some of the other things we're looking at are special paving around the parking garage, just to kind of give it a sense of place, or make it fit in a little bit better. And so that's the, and that was the picture she was just showing. You can flip to it if you want to, Nicole.
Sure, let me.
Sorry.
No, my computer was freezing, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So this is some of the special paving, stamp paving, just to give it a uniqueness and make it, like I said, to create this sense of place and to try to change the textures or pattern once you get into our downtown, because you do see more brick, things of that nature in our downtown. Then you can kind of see some of the intersections that we're looking at, just making sure that we're not, that it's not too much concrete or overwhelming with asphalt or gravel would probably be the worst. So making sure that we get these decorative elements in here. I'm just going to let you flip through them.
I think that was the last one, just that decorative paver.
Can you go back to the list again?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So some of the other things we're looking at, we're saving that 40-foot space between Franklin and the building itself. Hopefully that's going to be built on by a developer. We haven't decided exactly what we're going to do with that. Obviously, we don't want to put, if we're going to, ideally, we would have a developer on board, hopefully simultaneously. But if we do have to sit on it or maintain it for a little while, we don't want to put anything in there that's more permanent. We want to make sure we're putting semi-permanent things in there where eventually we can make economic use of it. It makes sense that it would be a building facade and that it would fit into our downtown. Obviously, it'll go back through historic preservation at that time for their okay and approval as well. Some of the other things we're looking at are additional trees. There are a lot of street trees involved in this project. I know me and Nicole have talked about that. She's involved with some other organizations as well, and we've been talking about how do we get enough trees into this to really soften that look, to soften the impact, if you will. And then looking at some of the other intersections and some signs and arts and gateway, these are things that we don't want to necessarily program them right now, but once we kind of get a better idea of, once we get further down in the construction project process, that's when we'll start looking at the second list here where it says bid by Michigan City. That's still, we've already priced that, or priced most of it, but it won't be added to the project right now. We would like to wait till we're finishing up building or at the end of the build process.
Thanks, Skyler. I guess I should have said that Skyler and I worked with the Michigan City Historic Review Board, and actually we had it was very intensive discussion. And I think it really came out with a wonderful update to the parking garage exterior in particular. So that was really a partnership with us in the historic district to make sure that it marries up as closely as it can with the historic district. And then I neglected to say that the station that will have, we have to put a historic exhibit about the South Shore line. It's probably going to be a large interpretive panel, and then I'll be figuring out what that's going to be like in partnership with Indiana Landmarks, and we'll get the Historic Review Board involved too. The Historic Review Board specifically has to review also, we're going to be putting 2 interpretive panels relating to the Franklin Street Historic District, and I can't remember if it's Barker Haskell or the other one, somewhere that Michigan City chooses along 10th, 11th, or near the station building itself. So that's going to be something fun, a little bit of icing on the cake when the project is rolled out too. That's all I have. Katie, I'll hand it back to you.
Yes, thank you. I think that was very thorough. A couple questions. What is so I know you give timeline for some of the contracts that you're foreseeing come up. Where, if somebody is interested in, some of those additional opportunities like the retail or looking at some of those third-party contracts, where do they find information about that? Still on the Double Track site?
In terms of the bids for the 5 contracts for Double Track itself, the construction contracts, they can go on our website. Let me just double check the URL here. Hold on. It's on our main South Shore website, so mysouthshoreline.com. And then on that page, you'll see the word about. I can just project this actually while I'm showing you. Hold on. Here we go. Share. So here's the South Shoreline, mysouthshoreline.com. And then these are all alerts. I'll just delete that so you can see better. Under about, you'll see, sorry, purchasing is what you want to select if it's going to work for me. There we go. And under purchasing, you will be able to see, this is the bids and proposals room. So you have to create a login to enter. But generally you would go under NICTD construction, and this here's, for example, 1, 2, 3, and 5, our double track construction projects are there. And then you would click there, you have to create a password, and you would get information about each of the projects and be able to access the plans and specifications and see all of the bid dates, which are coming up really quickly. So if anybody wants to get involved in the project, I'm not allowed to actually speak to anybody during the procurement phase because of ethics. So this is the way that they should get in touch with NICTD. And there's information here too on key contacts. This is our purchasing manager, Tony Sigmund. Any firm is welcome at any time to contact them about our requirements because there are a lot of forms and paperwork that have to be filled out to ensure a compliant bidder. And then your second question was about the retail space, and if people are interested in the retail, they can reach out to me directly, as that's not going to be handled through the leases will be handled separate by me and NICTD.
Okay. And then Skyler, is that true for you as you look at some of those betterments that you talked about and contracts for those will come out at a later date as construction goes along further in the process?
So the first list of betterments are will be bid by NICTD. So those will be part of the packages that you'll be seeing. We are just providing a monetary amount associated with those betterments. Okay. But the second round of those trees, the things that were in that second list, we'll go out to bid for. I mean, that we put out to bid through our normal process. But the first round, that list of what I'm considering more harder elements that have to be put in now, those are part of the packages that you're seeing. They're just addendums to or you know, additional things we would like to see done.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, on that.
Nope, that's right.
Number of jobs created from this construction project. I mean, do you have projections on?
I will look that up. It may take me a minute. We gave that, Skyler, do you happen to have that from a couple years ago?
I've seen it, but I don't want to say. I don't know exactly what I have a number in my head, but I can't remember what I don't want to say.
Sure. Let me just look it up. We have a number. I just need to find it.
Sure.
It's been a long time since we've seen that. There was a one-page printout with that. I remember seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that number fluctuates. You know,
it was like a total amount invested, total job creation, total time to get. It was
another question that came in is the Amtrak diamonds that were talked about. Can you explain those a little further? What are those referring to?
Absolutely. I'll project that quickly. Hold on. Shares. Okay. So in Michigan City, this is over by 11th Kentucky and Chicago, if you're familiar. This is the Alpha Storage complex, I should call it, because it has multiple buildings. You can see our train tracks coming westbound. This is that curve that we needed to take out so that we can go faster. And this is Amtrak's tracks going north and south. This little intersection is called Diamonds, and that's where two tracks cross over each other. And honestly, it looks like a diamond when you look at it. But those are specific pieces that have to be manufactured at that precise angle so that they can be custom put in at the track locations. Right, so we're basically gonna take our tracks and the single track right now, and it's gonna go more like this. It's gonna cut through these back buildings. That's why we're taking down the back two buildings of Alpha Storage. So we're gonna straighten out our track, and then of course we're putting a second diamond in. So our track will cross probably here, about 100 feet south of where we currently cross Amtrak. So that here there'll be two new diamonds where we will cross Amtrak for our new two tracks. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm explaining the diamonds.
Okay. The other question we have is, which side of the existing track will the double track be added to along Highway 12 in the town of Pines?
Oh, it goes back and forth, different places. So I believe it's to the north there. I can look that up and get back to you guys.
And then that was the only questions I saw in the chat. I would open it up at this point. If anybody has specific questions, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself and ask the question that you might have. If there's anybody that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Tanisha George, and I am the Human Rights Director and the EO Officer for the City of Michigan City. I came on board with Mayor Perry's administration back in January of last year. So I'm kind of unfamiliar with this aspect of the process. But I would like to know, is there any allocations or any intention, because Michigan City does have a local hiring ordinance. So I understand that this is federal, a lot of this is federal dollars, so there are DBE requirements and things of that nature. But was there any type of discussion during any part of this where the Michigan City local hiring ordinance came up, or was there any intention, or is there any intention? Because with job creation, I guess one of the answers that, or one of the questions that I'll more than likely get is, how many of those jobs are going to be for people that live in Michigan City?
Sure, I can answer that. For the federal portion of the project, the FTA does not allow requirements for local jobs, so that the grant itself prohibits us from requiring any number of local jobs be created. So that's how that is handled at the federal level. I can't speak to the Michigan City portion, but for our portion of the work, which is the majority of the work, that won't happen. So what we did because it's important to all of us as much as we can have local jobs, to have that be an opportunity. So that's one of the main things that drove us to break the contract. Originally, it was going to be all one big construction project. And so, a lot of those would go to the larger firms. We intentionally broke it up into 5 smaller contracts so that things like the garage in Michigan City could be kind of a manageable piece that a smaller contractor, local contractor, could potentially do. And that's the same thing that we did. The Dune Park East parking lot is carved off. The Portage Ogden Dunes, the new south lot south of the station there, that's carved off as separately. And then in Gary, we did the same. We took the station building itself, which is small in Gary compared to yours, and the east parking lot, that's a new lot that's going to be east of McDonald's, and we bundled those up into yet another package. And so that's one of the ways that we are doing that. And of course, we have DBE goals. I think we have a 17% DBE goal for all 5 of the contracts. And for example, right now also we have advanced work like the demolition that's happening that is going to local firms. Skyler, I don't know if you have any plan when you do the betterments, et cetera, how you plan to handle that for Michigan City work.
So our betterments right now, the first list of betterments, I mean, you guys are bidding it out. I don't know how we would. I think it would just have to be managed the same way as with the federal, similar to when we do betterments to other federal betterments. When we have worked on the bridge and things of that nature, it's more of a monetary amount that we pay above. But the other betterments, those will be bid through our regular bidding process that the city has to abide by. So yes, those will have to be bid out the same as any other contract that we bid out.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to look up the jobs and I'm not finding it. I'll try to email that to you, Katie. It's information from a couple of years ago. It's quite a few jobs that are projected to be created as part of the project. And then keep in mind that NICTD, in our 2016 agreement with Michigan City, we committed to keeping our operations in Michigan City for, I think it was 20 years in the agreement, minimum. And we have quite a few people. Most of the people that work out of our buildings in Michigan City are from Michigan City or LaPorte County. Yes. And myself included. And then there's going to be quite a few new jobs. I think for Double Track, we have 32 new jobs, and the average salary for each of those jobs is somewhere on the order of $80,000 a year. So they're good jobs, and I think that'll be really beneficial for Michigan City.
I found the one page, but it doesn't have the job creation. But I know that I've seen it. I just can't recall what it is.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
All right, and then just as a reminder, if there's no other questions, reminder to go to the Double Track NWI website, click on that newsletter link and plug your information in so that you can get updates. As Nicole mentioned, they'll be sending out regular updates on things that are happening. And obviously, if there was anything specific to Michigan City, we'll make sure, and if it warrants us having, another meeting to bring updates to our members and to the businesses. We'll definitely partner with them and get that done. And as far as if there's no other questions, any last minute thoughts from either you, Nicole, or Skyler?
I would just add, I mentioned earlier, it's been 4 years that I've been working with everybody on this, and it's so exciting. In my very first meeting coming to the Michigan City Chamber was, I believe it was me and Dale Enquist together. So I just want to have a shout out to Dale. We miss him and we will forever. So wish he were still around with all of us.
I just might say that it's been a pleasure to working with Nicole and with the NICTD project. It's been a very long time coming. So I remember when I first moved here, you guys were still, or even prior to moving here, we were at the point of just figuring out where we were going to put the double tracking. So going through the environmental part of it. So it's been a long time coming, and I think it's a big reward for Michigan City. So.
It really will be a game changer. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you to everyone who joined us.
Thank you all.
Great day.